Hello YouTube and welcome to the we have an anniversary. We have the 10th episode of the ArtaCast. ArtaCast still lives after 10 episodes. It's awesome. Thanks for all the support again, and without you we wouldn't be able to do this. Cause yeah, it got good good viewer counts. So thank you for that. Today or this week is a special week, as this is the week of the NA Continentals. So for many of you, at least the people who live in America, is this a special week? One of the most important weeks since since Lorcana got revealed, probably for you. So special week, and you all probably are thinking what you could bring to the either LCQ or the if you're qualified then for the Continentals. We have two lists that you could bring. That's what we want to do today. We want to do some tech cards that we think could catch some people off guard in the tournament environment right now, and as well as some general talk about the meta or some other stuff and what else. LD, how was your week? How was your Lorcana week? What did you experience?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. I've had a pretty good experience of playing. We'll show the list in a little while, but I've had a very, very strong run with an updated green-purple list that I've been playing. And I think it's probably not to everybody's taste, but certainly fits mine and does kind of what I want to do in the game very well, which is, it's been really nice to land on a list like that. And then aside from that, I mean, it's the run-up to North American Continentals, as you said, and we've just kind of been seeing over the course of the week, like the decks people have been playing changing quite significantly. Like there are some big shifts happening that we'll get into, and some surprising sort of results from some of the weekends tournaments as well that I think I'll touch on. I will say overall, I'm really happy that it's not our Continentals this weekend.
Yeah.
I think that as green purple players, the deck is in a worse position than it was going into the EU Continentals. So on that level, on that level, I think it's better for us that we were earlier in the set cycle for sure. And I think in general, for the kinds of decks I like to play, this is a lot more of a hostile metagame. But we'll get into the reasons why and kind of some ideas for how you fight that a little bit as we go along. But overall, I've had a good time. Yeah.
Yeah, and how do you feel about the meta? I think it's pretty still diverse. Or do you think one deck is above the rest? Or do you think it's a wide open meta game?
I think it's wide open, but there are differences between the European and North American metagame that we've observed in the past. So the shifts that we're seeing are basically just, you can attribute them to increased activity amongst North American players, right? And so we're seeing the metagame is trending towards strategies that we know are more popular in America than Europe. So in America, you barely see anybody play green purple. It's a really low representation deck. You also see lower representation of red purple, and across the board you see higher representation of steel decks, particularly aggressive ones like green steel and amber steel mines, those sorts of things. So lots more of that around this week, and also ton more purple steel, which is very much a deck and very much a sort of deck that a lot of American players enjoy as well. I think you need to be able to beat these. I'm labeling them dock piles, right? They're like linear steel decks, whether they're amber steel or purple steel or even in some cases green steel. You need a strategy that's going to help you keep pace with these dock pile decks, and it's really hard to punish them. I'm actually finding, like, you can't really shut this down if they draw their docks at the right time. It's really brutal to keep up with. A lot of the failure modes for the deck are kind of out of your hands as the opponent. You have to hope that there's a little bit of poor drawing that goes on, but the decks are actually like frighteningly consistent. And as we've seen, it's sort of like a war between those decks plus some red blue, still very strong. Red purple is doing a bit better. So you have got a diverse metagame. It's pretty wide, but it's yeah. If you were looking at, you know, if you were a player in America and you thought, okay, I'll prepare for my Continentals by looking at what people played at the European Continentals, and I'll just make sure I can beat that. You're probably going to have a pretty bad time because you've got a massive uptick in faster steel decks. And then the problem with those kinds of decks always is if fast steel decks are the issue that you're trying to solve in the metagame, the best answers to that are also in steel. It's why these decks like green steel and amber steel in the past have kind of created cyclical metagames. Like the best answer to Cindy Storm is to play your own Cindy before they play theirs and storm their one, right? They go first and do that.
Or to play no characters at all.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it's also a reasonable choice to brick the storm for a turn, but it's like a.
Oh, no, and I mean, say like red blue or something. They just don't run into it. But I know what you mean. Yeah. It's also really hard to figure out always on which spot is the meta game right now. Are you one step ahead, or exactly on the? Because if everyone is on Ember still, then you think red blue could be a good choice, and maybe red blue is then the most played deck, but I don't think so probably. But it's always hard to figure out in which step are the people right now. Are they in the step, oh, Ember still is the bring of the day, or do they say, oh, I'm a step ahead and play red blue to counter it or something? And that's always hard to figure out. For me, it's hard to figure out. Also, I'm really curious what will be the most played deck. It's really hard to say for me. I still think, just a feeling, that red purple is the most played deck overall, but it's hard to say. Has some decent successes. Noem not had a great weekend again, and did also win the EU Continentals. I think it's not mattering too much, but still a bit. I think when people see, oh, it won the EU Continentals, then it gets a bit up of reputation probably. And and it's just a good deck. Has no real weaknesses. No real crazy weaknesses, you could say, and has some decent matchups into nearly everything. And I could see that as most played deck, but maybe it's Ember Steel. I don't know. What do you think? It's really hard to say.
It's tough. I've not got red purple as my most played deck. I'm not going to bet on that as most played, but I am backing it to win. Right? I think red purple can win.
It can always
this
win,
tournament. And if I was a gambling man, I'd name Kendall. No, I'm not, to be the one doing it, right? I think red purple is incredibly well positioned to capitalize on a wide format like this. The only thing that concerns me a little bit is that the deck seems to, I don't know how true this is, but people have told me before that they feel the deck doesn't do so well through 2-game format tournaments. Like it's a real beast in best of 3. So that it might struggle to convert a little bit, but it certainly didn't have any problems converting in Europe, did it? Like the conversion rate was really high. So
I didn't understand this argument forever because
okay.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe it can be still true. But if you say that, then you say the deck is bad on the draw, right? Or what does this else mean? Because it's not. Why is it? Or other question? Why is it bad in 2-game format?
Yeah, I mean, I also don't know. This is like the thing that I've heard people say, but I think my guess would be that it's a it's a toolboxy type deck that has different cards you want for different matchups, different solutions.
So you mean
in the dark?
Yeah, okay.
Like in the
lose
dark
the
game
first
one,
game.
it's hard to mulligan. It seems like a deck that is probably quite good at losing first game, and then once you understand the strategy you're up against, you do have tools to mulligan for. That would be my guess. And I could see that. I think probably like at the very, very top, the most seasoned players will be so adept at mulliganing that the effect is minimized. But for like your average red purple player, I think they're probably quite good at dropping game ones of best of threes and then winning the next two, right?
But to be honest, in red purple, it's easier for me to mulligan blind than in green purple, for example, because in red purple I just keep. I keep all low costed cards, and in green purple I need Kid or Ursula and some key cards. I mean, the only key card in red purple is for me Brawl that you need in certain matchups. But out of that, I mean, Flynn Sisu is a keep in every matchup. I don't know. It's yeah, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see the 2-game format issue in red purple. But if people hear this, maybe they can guide us, tell us why we are dumb to don't see it.
Yeah, I'd certainly be interested to hear more about that because it's always something that I've assumed it's the mulligan issue, but I don't really know.
For me, it's a mathematical thing. You know, if you should bring the best deck, the deck which you think you have the best win rate with, no matter what, and then it doesn't make any sense. 2-game for it's just the win rate. You know, you play the deck with the best win rate. That's all. I think, and that's not the game. The format doesn't change this for me. It's just you will top cut with the best win rate in the room. So I don't see it too much, but yeah, maybe I can see it's for decks that are really strong on the play and really weak on the draw. That 2-game format hurts a bit, but still, then you if you think okay they are bad into 2-game format. In 3-game format, then you have to just win every die roll, so that makes no sense too. So that makes it not worse or better. It's just the deck is probably bad if you can't win on the draw.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so yeah, but that's arguable. Yeah. So I think the meta is very interesting, and I will be very excited about to watch these NA Continentals, because I really don't see the how can I say the domination of one deck or something. I really don't see it. For me, a bit red blue is probably still for me best deck in format. You could say, but it's hard to say. It has also its weaknesses and can lose to many things and lose to itself sometimes, and so it's hard to say. For me personally, red purple and red blue are, if I should call one deck the best deck in format, then for me it's red purple or red blue. But it's not Ember Steel for me. I don't know. But that's just my feeling. And I'm no Ember Steel player, so I'm probably biased by this.
Yeah.
And I
feel the same way.
Yeah.
I feel the same way that there are, if I had to pick best deck in format, like we were talking about it last week, I kind of said I think red blue is probably more powerful. But nothing is so much more powerful than anything else that it looks like, okay, this deck will win. Right? The format is open enough that anyone who's an expert with any of like 6 decks could realistically take this tournament down. Yeah. And that's a really exciting place to be, right? It's like, I think this overall will be a more fun tournament to watch than the EU one. But I'm still not sure that, I don't know. I've got a funny feeling that gut feeling. I think that the field will be super diverse and the top 8 won't be. I think we could randomly see like 4 Amber Steel or something in the top 8. Like maybe that could happen. I don't know.
Maybe that can.
But I'm looking forward to it either way.
Yeah, for me it's just a feeling that Amber Steel or some linear decks like Amber Steel or some dog piles are easier to counter or to target for than than red purple, for example. I mean, how do you counter red
Yeah,
purple?
yeah.
It's very, very hard. But yeah, I think we will see what happens, and yeah, I'm very excited. Yeah, we have 2 decks. I have to be honest. I prepared 2 decks for my MetaFi people, and I won't show here my green purple list because yeah, they are for my supporters, which I really want to reward for for supporting me. But I have a red purple list because I think it's good to show the people some deck list what we brought up. You will show your green purple list, and I will show my red purple list right now because I think you all know me. I'm green purple player from my heart. But if green purple is not but to be honest, I would probably bring green purple in NA Continentals if I would go, because my feeling is just that many people will play red purple, and also because many people think Amber Steel is that popular, then they bring red blue too. So I think green purple is a really good pick for the NA Continentals, and I would probably bring it. But if I wouldn't bring it, then I would bring red purple. And I have a new list that's probably a bit surprising for many people, which did surprisingly well for me. Well, not surprisingly, I thought a bit about it, and it did very well for me, especially because my goal was to be a bit more consistent against the dog piles and a bit more low to the ground to fight them better. And so I show you the list right now. And I have 12 1-drops now. That's very, very much, you could say. They're all cantrips, so it doesn't make too much issues. And yeah, we have all the things we have too. I'm playing only 2 Elsas. That's maybe a bit controversial. And I play 4 crabs. So because I thought Elsa is the dog piles are so fast that Elsa is too slow most of the time. You can't play a 5-cost removal, or a single target removal. That's too high costed, and the crab trades with all these cheap characters we play is just very efficient against them. Yeah, the problem is Flynn Sisu. I'm only on 2 Flints because it's only really against red blue, and I feel really good with this list against red blue either way. So I have to cut something against so many matchup. Flynn does nothing right now, and yeah, but maybe 4 Flynn are still the way to go. But it's hard for me to cut things here. Yeah, and if you want to try something else, but if you want to play something like this, then please start playtesting now, because you need a little bit of practice. Because this red purple deck, it's a Artabax style deck, plays a bit different than traditional red purple. You have to really use your 1-drops like in an aggro deck or something. You always want to play on turn 5, for example. You want to play Genie plus a 1-drop. Don't ink your 1-drops. Always play them to get 1 lore more, and then that you play them really, really. You don't. In traditional red purple, you just ink your 1-drops after turn 1 most of the time, but that's not the case here. You really use them to chip out much lore, and yeah. In most cases, I'm not sure about the mass removal stuff here. I mean, you could also play Sisus. I think you still have to play some mass removals, otherwise it's very hard into so much matchups. But Be Prepared is just still very much better against red blue. Because the cool thing is, in this deck, the shark does not that much. You just you slam the board, and then you quest in 1 turn with everything and be-prep the board, and then it doesn't matter too much, the shark. And because the shark is the most lists are playing now 3 to 4 sharks and 3 to 4 pirates life, that's very annoying. And this deck doesn't care too much about the shark. For this deck, it would be way worse if they play still 4 Tamator, 2 Dimes, and such things. That would be way worse for red purple. But they seem to tech more against the dog piles, and that's good for this deck. I have a very, very good win rate against red blue with this deck. And that's why I chose to cut a bit of the Flints, because Flynn is that's the matchup. Red blue is the matchup for Flynn, and yeah, and in Ember Steel it's just nonsense card, and yeah, it's hard to cut things here. But I'm really happy with this list. You could still argue about some things. You could play more Mauis or something but because Maui is still good against all dog decks, and yeah, but I'm really, really happy with this list. I think if you practice this list, you will do okay and you can play red purple fine. You really can do well in a big tournament. I think it's very good into the mirror match, because these cheap one coster characters are they cheat out a bit of lore that your opponent can't do, and then you win the race often. So it's yeah, I'm really, really happy with this list. And this 12 1-drops, you often start with 2 1-drops, like in green purple, but all your 1-drops replace themselves, so it's even not a problem. It's just to stabilize in the early game. Yeah, and all of your 1-drops threaten a crab trade, and yeah, I'm really happy with this list. Yeah.
It looks really cool. I like a lot of the decisions. Elsa in particular, I just wanted to talk about. That's a card that I kind of... It's really tough to evaluate how good Elsa is right now, because at the start of the set, she was so important for these Genie Wars that were going on, and then Red Blue saw a big uptick, and the card just felt so bad to me at times that kind of like for decks, for non-red purple decks, it's kind of like you really must play 3 or 4 of them. You can't get... your removal options are so limited that you have to play it to open it up. But there was still matchups where it felt like a really bad card and a really poor top deck at times. So I can see a reduced number making a lot of sense, especially you could justify it so much more in red purple than the other purple decks
with Brawl and Medusa and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
you have actual ways of killing things that aren't just exerting them.
I just experienced that I incur, I don't know, 8 out of 10 times, and then I think for a late game card or a mid to late game card, inking that often is really, I don't know. Or then it's at maybe too limited uses then in this deck, because if you have a Genie and you have the Elsa, you still rather brawl the opponent Genie and then you can quest with your Genie. It's better. It's 2 more lore and your Genie is full health then. And why should you waste the Elsa on them when you can just brawl it? And I think brawl is a very important card in the mirror match right now for the Genies, and the Flynn sometimes too. And so I would be not surprised if something like this will do very well.
I think.
Yeah.
I was just going to say before you move on from the deck, the 1-drops, I think, very interesting. That you're right. You can't get by with 8 1-drops at the moment, and you need the 1-drops to be active and able to take good trades. Like you say, these are all options that work well with Crab in different capacities and help you do those things. I did see from some of this weekend's tournaments that, as you mentioned, Kendall did really well again, and was playing some number of
Olaf right?
/minis, because the density of you basically can't get your 1-drop stormed, right? Like a lot of the time in some of these matchups, you have to contest the board, and even if it's a Diablo and the card replaces itself, like you've still lost your board presence and your ability to play a snake turn 2 if that's what you had to do. So I think there's a lot of difficult decisions to make around the 1-drops in this deck, but
I think that makes total sense for me to play Olaf instead of Broom, for example, or so. I didn't test it, to be honest. Makes sense for me. The problem is for me a bit, you really want it only against Steel. In every other matchup, Broom is better, but it's hard to say. I really like Broom against Red Blue, because it can quest into Tipo and quest 2 times. Then if you're on the draw, you play Broom and they play Tipo, then you can quest and don't have to banish him right away. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
What I really think for this deck, I mentioned I have a large section in my guide about this fact, and that's the deck. That's also the deck where you need to make this perfect with the cantrip characters. It's very important that you learn how to play with them, because many people, I think, I play against so many people who use their cantrip characters wrong and banish them too early, and that's very, very, very important that you don't do that, and that you experience, that you just practice and learn how to use them. Because I play sometimes against, I played with my girlfriend's deck and I played red-blue against red-purple, and they were on the play and played Chernabog, and I played a Popsicle, and they quested and banished the Chernabog, and that's nearly always wrong. You can't banish it, because maybe people think, oh, I have more options than in my hand or something, but it's actually missing a ton of floor throughout the game if you banish him right away. That's most of the time wrong. I mean, if you have 6 uninkables or so, I can see it, but other than that, it's nearly always wrong. If your character can't be removed next turn, then don't banish it. So that's a real often misplay I see, and I think you have to practice this deck even more than the normal red purple if you want to. To play red purple, it plays a bit different, and you have to play different to be successful with it. Yeah, but the crab, I agree with you. The crab is just for me the way to deal with the Amber Steel decks. That's so good. It's every 1-drop threatens such a good trade, and they often can't do things, and because you threaten a good trade, and you're just surviving too easy to come to this Medusa B prep turns. The only thing what really hurts for me is the Lilo. That's really, really, because I play no Sisus, and if I play 1B prep and they always return their Lilo, I get out resourced sometimes, and that's a bit of a problem. But you could cut 1B prep maybe for one big Sisu or something. I just experienced too much problems against red-blue with the big Sisu, because you really need the B preps even sometimes to just kill a Tamator or a shark or something, because only 2 Tremaines are a bit risky sometimes. That's that. I'm curious if something like this will do good.
I think it will.
Yeah, I hope so. But now our baby is please show us your new list. You had a crazy run. In some test games with it.
So I mean, we've talked a lot in the past about the sort of power of playing the deck, and understanding yourself and the way you want to play. And to me, this current list of green purple, it looks very weird at first glance. There are a lot of odd decisions. I feel so much like I've crafted a deck that so well aligns with exactly how I play, but I don't know it in good conscience. I couldn't walk up to another player and say, "Hey, you should play this," because it might be completely horrible for them.
No, I don't think so.
So, well, that's kind of you to say, but the big difference here, and the sort of namesake, is that I've gone back to playing with Clarabelle, because I just desperately wanted that way to restore parity on hand size, as an extra out in a lot of these grindy games. So against red-blue, our strategy this whole set has kind of been, well, we're going fast, right? We're playing with merfolk, and we're just turning things sideways. We're going to get under them, and then we're going to beat them with go-go's. And as we've said continuously throughout the set, like the longer time goes on, the more people will adapt to just losing to go-go. The harder it will be to force them into decisions where they just straight up lose to it. The upshot of that basically being that it's harder race and trap people into these kind of cheese losses these days. And you need a little bit more ability to continue to grind through. So I've lent back on Clarabelle because so often I was emptying my hand, gassing out around turn 5, and just being able to play almost recklessly up till then and then just refuel on that turn has been so important. And it plays so nicely with the Mother Knows Best that I've been on for quite a while, as my out and answer to things like Shark and things. In the absence of hard removal options, you need something unconditional like Mother Knows Best that can just delay them a turn, push that Shark back, so you can have another turn of questing out before it's going to start to do some bad stuff. So often, I would have turn 5s where I shift Clarabelle, Mother Knows Best something, and draw 4 or 5, and just really changing the way that I play to, instead of trying to grind them out of resources, you get to stop thinking about that so much because you know that you can restore parity with Clarabelle, right? So things like kitting opposing genies, that's fine. That's a great tempo play, whatever build you're playing. But when you're actually working towards playing Clarabelle, it's so much better because you'll let them pay 4 to draw a card as much. They could do that infinitely. That's never an issue for me. I would gladly have them do that. And that's kind of been the main way that I've been playing. So I've not been playing Merfolk because they were just dying way too easily, and then I was playing against a bunch of dock piles that just cleaned them up way too easy and were happy to discard a card because it just gets them to empty their hand for dock faster, and it was just not doing that much. It was just getting splatted by T-pose, and then red-blue wasn't, the resources weren't constrained. It's a bit of a nombo with Clarabelle, so you don't really want them running out of cards as often as you would with other builds. And then I went back up on Banzai's, which, main point of, if you're going to play North American Continentals, I don't think that you can play too many Banzais. I think that it's a storm-heavy format. It's even there are some number of fire the cannons around. You will need to tweak numbers, and it's another reason why I say just don't take this and just run with it as a 60, but you need to think about adapting it a little bit to a more steel-heavy field. With that said, it's done very well throughout the field for me this week. My record in best of 3s was 25 wins, 2 losses. So
that's crazy.
And I don't have a great explanation for you other than that this just gels so well with how I want to play. I love big mid-game tempo swings. So curve outs like Kit into a Genie, into a Shift Clarabelle with Mother Knows Best, and you just completely refill your hand, and then I play really aggressively with my Clarabelle, keep racing, and use that big swing of usually it's drawing 3 or 4, use that big swing of cards to carry you over, and close out the game later. It feels great to find something that gels so well with you, but I've shown it to friends and some of them have said what are you thinking? And I can't really say too much more than what I've said here. I think that there are cards for me that are pet cards like Don Carnage. Just play Bell. It's better in a Genie Wars and it's going to do more for you. But I like playing with this proactive card. I think it's way better against red blue and that sort of thing. And there are reasons for these decisions. But yeah, I had a fantastic run with it. It continues to perform well, and yeah, I'm interested to know what you think.
I would probably play Clarabelle too right now. I think she's really strong again, and because I mean, you said it yourself. Against Amber Steel, of course, it's not her matchup, but it's weird. She's still a 1/2 that can crab trade a Daisy or something. At least she does more there than the Merfolk most of the time.
Yep.
So I would probably play her too because she's so good into red purple and into red blue, and that's two very important matchups. And I think the only thing what's funny, because you showed me the list and you allowed me to show it someone else, and I showed it into my Metafy group, and in my guide I write Merfolk is the best one drop you can play. And there's no doubt in that, and it's great. Then I show this list and no Merfolk, lol, Artabax, didn't you say? And that's the only thing I really I don't want to say don't get. For me personally, but it's probably wrong. I don't know, because you're so successful. But sometimes it's still a bit of variance. But Merfolk is a card for me personally. Maybe I have to reconsider.
Yeah.
I'm one of the last cards I would cut. I would have thought to cut. But that's just personal, and I'm wondering, since I saw your list, I'm wondering why I felt so strong on her and you don't. Or maybe you still think it's a good card. Yeah, I think you don't think it's a bad card.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it?
I think it's incredible. Merfolk is, like you say, in a vacuum, the best one drop we can play. It's at its best when we are the fastest real deck in the format, right? Like the fastest tier 1 deck.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
And you versus the field are racing.
Yeah. That's true. That's totally
it's
true.
so bad. It's an uninkable card that's bad on the back foot, which means that actually green purple, as we've seen over time in a lot of metagames, is the fastest tier 1 deck, or like fastest between tier 1 and tier 2. There are always hyper aggro decks, of course, but they're rare and they struggle to break through to tier 2 and tier 1. As long as you are the fastest, then leading with Merfolk is pretty much always the best thing you can do. But the just huge barrage of Amber Steel, the Amber Steel Daisy decks, whether it's mines or whether it's just a more aggressively slanted Amber Steel dock pile, and a lot of the other dock piles as well. It lines up so badly into them that for me, an uninkable card has to be really good against. It can't have too many bad matchups, right? Because it's uninkable. It does one thing. It does exactly one thing. You're never playing it as a resource. That one thing has to be incredibly good, which for Merfolk it is. But if it starts to feel worse in the format, you have to be ready to move off it. Now, I was playing with Banzai because I moved back to that, because into a field full of red-blue, having lots of 3 strength things, it performs really, really well.
Banzai is better than Merfolk into blue-red. That's true, yeah.
Yes. So even though Merfolk, you think, right, I definitely want Merfolk into blue-red, because
for me,
you get your runouts where you just play a load of 1-drops.
For me,
it does get cleaned up by the T-pos really easily.
For me, it's even more important against red-purple, personally, but it's hard to say. It's hard to raise red-purple sometimes, and Merfolk are just inevitable to lore that can't be prevented, or at least not easily. And it's in the late game good to force a beep trap or something, but it's really hard to say what's the best. And I think it's maybe not objectively possible to say what the absolutely best way is. I think you have to play either Banzai or Merfolk to be fast enough.
Yes.
You're just too slow then. And against red purple, I can see your list too, because it's you probably go more mid-rangey route then, and
completely,
and go with the Clarables and just such things like we did in the past. And I think that's totally reasonable. You just don't aggro them anymore, probably. So that makes total sense for me.
Yeah, that's a very good way of summarizing it, right? Which is that the actual number of card differences here versus the versions that, like, say, what you played or what I played at Continentals, it's not too many cards different, but once you add Clarabelle back in, you are shifting to a more mid-rangey game plan. And so this is attempting to play in a more mid-rangey way. So if you are looking to sort of try out those more mid-rangey builds of green-purple, I think there's some work for you to do. You could take this as a starting point, but then it's kind of, the ball is in your court with your numbers of Merfolk, Banzai, and you might even want to consider some number of Lyles. But you got to work that out, what you want to do with your uninkables. Those are the flexible uninkable slots, and I think you need to decide which ones you really want. Feel free to cut Mother Knows Best if you think you don't need it. I think that the format does demand something like that. Because you'll just lose to a shark. But that's the flex area, right? Is work out what you want to do with regarding Banzai, Merfolk, potentially Lyle. This is what I ran with. It did great, but I would be scared about Banzai into a field that I know is full of storms and fire cannons, that sort of thing. There's plenty of them around, and it makes Banzai look a lot worse.
What do you say about only 3 Elsa? That's also the card I probably never thought of cutting, but you are brave enough to. Did you miss her, the 4th Elsa, or did you think it's probably didn't?
Yeah, no, I didn't miss it. I went down to 3 because of the reasons we were talking about before, where it was feeling like such a limited card in some matchups, and then I felt like I'm spending. It's actually a very interesting question, and I'll give you a long and boring answer. The main purpose of Elsa in our list, or at least like the main use case that's coming up a lot, is cleaning up opposing genies, right? So it's I Elsa your genie, send in my genie and Elsa it. There are plenty of other things she does, like kill Diablos and tidy up other evasive things. But that's like one of the most common use cases for her, and the reason why she was sort of an auto 4 at the start of the format when genie was everywhere. As soon as you start playing with Clarabelle and you care less about grinding your opponent out of resources, your willingness to kit an opposing genie and have kit be almost your perfect answer to genie changes. It goes up. I want to Elsa genies less on turn 5. I would rather kit and play a Banzai. I want to keep that board wide, keep my hand empty, keep your hand full. Then I'm going to get my good Clarabelle. So I thought that with that shift towards being less dependent on grinding them out, I can worry less about ensuring I always have an Elsa for their genie. I can kit them more often, and I can maybe reduce my overall number of Elsas. If you want to play 5, I think it's completely valid. Sorry,
4.
don't play 5. 4. I was looking at the cost. 5 is not a valid number of Elsas to play. Don't advocate for that. If you want to play 4, just go ahead. But that was my rationale, and it seemed to work out fine.
Yeah, that's totally reasonable explanation. Yeah, I like it a lot. I tested it also. It's really good. It's like you say, it's a bit slower, but it's some better tools to deal with situations that we thought before we have lost, and that's a good thing. Like Shark, a turn 4 Shark is still a nightmare. That's still something I think about every day, how to come around with this, because it's the red-blue people, they know they just have to do it, and then they don't have to care about anything against green-purple too much. I mean, still, Mother Knows Best is the best answer, probably, but it's still not perfect. If you're not completely threatening lethal or something, then it's we still have to respect that, and then because that, I think you're totally right to feel it feels necessary to play some cards that deal with the Shark, or you can't just sit there and say, hopefully they don't have a turn 4 Shark and I lose. That's not possible in the meta right now. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, probably every red-blue player will be. I mean, it's figured out probably how they play it, and everyone will play 2 or 3 Sharks and 2 or 3 Pirates Life probably. I think I saw no red-blue player recently that did not play any amounts of these. Because in the start of the set, it was a bit controversial. Some players were on them, some not, and they didn't know. And Shark is slow, but now I think everyone is on Shark, and we have to, because the Shark is also better against Amber Steel and such decks, as well as the Pirate's Life, and that's just such a good combo, Pirate's Life and Shark. It's just crazy. Yeah, so I really like this list, and it's probably one of the ways to go with our deck. And I'm not too far away from your list. So you have to recommendations from us now, which decks you could bring, or also some ideas, some inspirations. But what we want to do now is some tech cards. We have both thought about some tech cards you could bring, and with tech cards I don't mean anti cards for something. I mean rather cards that catch people off guard by you just playing them as they don't expect it anymore, or did not expect it just don't expect. And I want to make the start and say some tech cards for. I mean, I have mostly, I have one card for red purple, one card for red blue, one card for green purple, and one card for steel decks in general. And I start with my red purple tech card, and that's either castle or library. I had some test games with red purple, and right now you play a lot of mirror matches. And what you do in mirror matches right now is ink your Mauis most of the time and your crabs, because they are not every time, but often they do not much. You rather have another hand-size Sisu or something on the board that has more lore and something, and you don't see many use cases for these cards, and then your opponent slams a castle and you just think, oh my gosh, I did totally forget about this card. And I'm really, really sure if you right now, because the most red purple decks play the same deck like last set, except for the genies. For the castles, they play no genies. That's the difference mostly. And if you played castles again, then I don't say cut genies. Don't cut genies, please. But try to cut something else and play some castles, and you will catch some people. Of course, they be prep. They think, okay, what can they do now? And then you slam a castle, and then they have a serious problem if they don't have a Maui or a Crab Fox. Because in the past we saved that most of the time in the mirror match, because we know it was often a location war in the end game. The genie was in last set. It was location wars. Who must play be prep first, and then the other can slam 2 castles and it's over. And that's not the case anymore, because we cut the castles because they do not much in some matchups. And I think so as a 1 or 2 of, I can totally see it, and to play it, and you will probably win some games with it, as well as it's still good against red blue. It's still good against in the mirror match, even against all purple decks. If they don't have exactly the fox, then it's always a card that can catch people off guard, and paired with be prepared, it was always a good card, the castle. And there will be situations where your opponent can't do anything, so I think it's totally reasonable to play it as a 1 or 2 of. Or what do you think?
I think it's a good format for locations, right? Like whenever you see these, we've got enough data now from past metagames to kind of have some understanding of how people have adapted before. And when one of the characteristics of these steel decks that are rising is that they often, certainly true for amber steel, green steel, one of their characteristics is that the characters will have quite low strength, and they struggle to clean up locations in an efficient way. So the format is getting a little more soft to them in general, in addition to all of the reasons you've said. So any of these 7+ willpower locations to me look quite good. I mean, I'm not filling a deck with them, but if you're playing 1 or 2, like 1 or 2 castles, I think something like red purple would be. I could see that being great right now.
I think the only reason why people don't play it is just deck space. I think it's just deck space. I think it's just I don't want to cut an Elsa for it or a Maui or something. I have too many good cards in my deck, and I don't want to cut it. And that's still the fact. I think that it's good, but it's not. It didn't. You probably still want to play rather Flynn or something. I mean, the problem is in red purple, for example, you have to cut really high valuable cards, because 50 55 cards seem to be stable. So you have to cut either Flynn or Friends or a 1-drop or crabs or things. It's really hard to find space. Or you cut remains, but then you have less options for removal, and so I still see the struggle to find space for it. But if you find space, it's still I don't see it going too bad. I mean, it's still against Ember Steel, it's your way to close out the game then very fast if you once stabilized a bit. I think they can't remove it nearly in their deck. They have no, and they probably won't because they want to quest, and they probably won't use resources to kill your 7 willpower location. So I can see it still being inked often against that matchup because you need other cards in some situations, but it can't be too wrong. It's inkable. Yeah, okay, I don't know.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So your first deck card.
So it's not one card. It's a class.
It's
of
a
cards.
class.
And it's we already touched on it, which is 1/3 1-drops.
Okay, yeah.
So especially for purple decks that are relying right now on turn 3 crabs. So it's like you need to fox or crab a lot of these aggressive decks on turn 3 to sort of stay in the game. Yep. If you lose your 1-drop and you don't have a target for crab, you're in really, really bad shape. So any 1-drop that dies to Storm looks a fair bit worse. And it's not just Storm; it's a lot of other things. So that's not to say that things like Broom, Journalbox, Diablo are bad. They are very, very good. They are your best crab targets a lot of the time. Not so much Journalbox, but Diablo, Broom, those are great at hitting a lot of stuff. But you do need, for some matchups, you will be very, very glad that you had a 1/3 that is very good for surviving Storm and making sure you have a bounce target or have a crab target, and also just lines up well against more things when it's the target for crab, right? So maybe it's taken no damage, it's going to live and do a bit more, stick around to then get bounced again and sent to the inkwell. We're so used to having a wealth of 1-drops that just cantrip and replace themselves, but some metagames do call for 1/3s, especially for decks like red purple, and maybe for some others too that are just looking to stabilize the board with their crab. I think it's a time to look at 1 or 2 copies of those for some decks.
That makes total sense. Yeah. That can totally see that. Yeah. It's hard to figure out the amounts probably. How much do you commit to do that? But it's probably right to play some amount of cards, especially in decks like, maybe it's even more needed in decks like green purple, where you have to really rely on your crab trades to do that, because red purple has still some other options like brawl and other cards that can still do a bit of things then. Yeah, but I can totally see that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the extension of that is also just making sure that you don't go too overboard on like 0 strength 1-drops. So your Merfolks and Diablos. The extra 1 point is so important for crab into Daisy.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's really relevant in the format. So yeah, that's kind of an extension. I don't know what I'm recommending, but just
it's very weird,
your 1-drops
because
need to trade.
Yeah, I love both so much, Merfolk and Diablo. That's a really good point from you, because I love both so much that I didn't think about cutting here, so I didn't realize maybe how often they lose me. I don't know if they lose me the game, but I'm so high on them that I just don't see the downsides probably often enough, because I think okay, I did only draw 2 Diablos and 1 Murfolk, but they are too good. We'll never cut it, and that's maybe not the best approach for evaluating how good it fits in the meta. Maybe a card is really, really crazy good, but it just don't fit in the meta, and that's still sometimes the case, yeah. And you don't want to have all your 0/1s on the draw. That's true. You want to have them when you're ahead. That's true.
Yeah. So the general point there, as we said before, is like that. Play draw is a great example. They're so much better on the play than on the draw because you want to play them ahead. But even though they are fantastic, like 10 out of 10 cards, as soon as you feel like the format has reached a point where you're not reliably the aggressor all the time, or like enough of a percentage of games you're not reliably the aggressor anymore, you have to reevaluate those cards, because on the back foot they are so poor. Even on the play in some matchups where you just get run over by triple 1-drop. And that, I'm not talking about triple purple 1-drop. It's more like triple amber steel 1-drop. Daisy Robin,
Cindy, or something.
Daisy Robin Cindy is a much bigger problem than like 3 Chernobog's followers, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have to deal with that. They're not going away. They're not drawing cards. You're gonna have to find ways of trading into them, and your O1s
and then
really poor at that.
You're crap trading the Cindy, but then still there are some 2 other characters on the board, and because it's just 1 value trade doesn't mean too much. Yeah, that's true. That's totally reasonable. Next card for me is, I don't want to talk much about, because it's just the mana for red blue. It's the same for me like in red purple. I think you can run manas too right now and catch some people off guards with it. Also, mana is also good in red blue just to raise, to the best racing card if you really want to close out games against Ember Steel or something. You can spend 4 ink for a mana and still do something else in the turn, and in the end game. And probably it's the cheapest way to get 2 lore every turn, and that's very good, I think. Also against red purple, you slam this. Red purple has a task then to deal with the 9 health location. It's not very easy. That's just wanted to mention shortly. But the next card for me, and I tested it and I really like it. I don't know if I would be brave enough to bring it, but is we don't talk about Bruno in green purple, because I really like, not I really liked, I really agreeing with your statement that you need something to deal with sharks, and we were always arguing about the strength of Mother Knows Best, because we are really different in this opinion. But in the past, I really liked it so much. I don't know why it changed for me. Maybe I have to just play it more, because every time I break with this card, I think I have to cut it. But that's probably not valid, or how you can say it. But Bruno, I played it against the shark, and the Bruno was very, very, very good answer against the shark. Often they have very limited cards in their hand when they slam a shark, and then if you Bruno it gets off discarded even, or you just it's still good to remove it, and then they don't get card advantage by it. You can sing it very good with Elsa in our deck. I mean, against red blue, you won't often have an Elsa on the board, but against other decks, it's still a good tempo swing if you Elsa something earlier, and then you could sing the Bruno afterwards. And the big upside of Bruno is just the ink ability, of course, in comparison to Mother Knows Best, because in some matchups you would still like to ink the Mother Knows Best probably, and the Bruno you can just ink. So I have to test it more. I don't know if it's completely the way to go, or the thing what I think is the way to go or something, but it's a good tech card, and I think nobody in the whole room will expect you to play Bruno. They will, if it's the last card, they slam a shark, and they don't think about I don't ink now because I need something to prevent my shark to be discarded. They will slam their last card if it's a shark, and they will probably not be scared for any answer. So and it's still sometimes a decent racing tool in the end game. If you just want to remove the last character, you have still something against the Tamator, you have still something against some other annoying characters like Big Cindy or something. It's a solid card. I don't say it's broken, but I think it's a solid option to play in green purple right now.
Nice.
As a 2-off or something. Like your Mother Knows Best. Something like that, yeah. Also with the Clarabelle shift line, you can also sing it. With the big Clarabelle when you shift it. It's also a good. I did once too. Shift and then sing I mean, you probably would rather play Mother Knows Best because you draw one more then, but yeah, it's not too big of a difference then.
Yeah, the inkability is a massive deal, right? Which is that like it's you never want to put Mother Knows Best in your deck. It's just sometimes a necessary evil. If it was inkable, it'd be a different matter. So the inkability on Bruno it is such a huge mark in favor of it that I can definitely see that.
Because You're Welcome, I really don't like. I don't know. I don't like this card. It's so bad.
I can't stand it.
No. It's. There's so rare situations where you really want to play You're Welcome, and even if you're in best case you shift Clarabelle and then play You're Welcome, then you think, oh, what a crazy combo. But then your opponent has still 7 cards in his hand or something, and then he can still, even if you have the same, they can then wipe your board, and I don't know. It feels bad. Bruno is way better, I think, in our deck.
Yeah, I think I've said this before. I cannot stand to look at the card You're Welcome. I can't. If it's in my hand, like it's like I might as well be holding a piece of paper that says ha 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 ha. Your deck has absolutely 0 good removal options. Look at this awful thing. Like it just when I look at that, I'm like, I'm playing the wrong combination of colors. If this is a card I have to play, why am I playing this deck? Like. It's I think the card is so poor. It has obviously niche use cases for some decks that like blue green gets a lot out of it, right?
Yeah.
But that's much of a muchness.
Yeah. Okay, Dave, do you have something else?
Yes. So I don't know if you would really call this like a tech choice, but certainly this is a card that comes in and goes out of some Ruby decks, especially red-blue. To me, this looks like a format where you would want human Sisu.
Yeah,
like some number.
That's also. I wrote it too. It's human Sisu because I think people are too low on this card. I see so many red-blue lists that cutting her completely, and I don't. First of all, I don't agree, and second, I think it's really needed on the draw sometimes against some aggressive decks. What do you want more? I don't see it. The only really bad matchup, it's probably red purple, where it does not much, but then it's still with ice block can kill a genie, what's very, very powerful. And just if you play ice blocks, play please human Sisu too. It threatens the shift earlier. It's and the decks red blue. I played it also a lot the past weeks. It's not very bricky right now. In the past, they played like 21 or something uninkables, but now they play on the highest is like 14 or something. So the deck in itself got way, way, way more consistent with all these quality upgrades like Sail instead of one jump ahead and such cards and everything is it feels very consistent, the red blue deck, and I think you can afford to play some human Sisus, and
I think so.
I even thought about it in red purple as a one-off because I think it has so many uses. It can kill in nearly every matchup, anything. It can kill Hirems even. It can the only in the mirror match you don't want it probably, but in any other matchup you can see so many cards which can be targeted by human Sisu. So Yeah. Yeah, probably every purple matchup it shines not completely. But if it kills a 1-drop, it's still decent. I think it's not bad if it kills a Bruno or even a Diablo is not too bad. It's okay. It's not but in some other matchup, if it kills a Daisy, you feel like you won the game, you know. It's such a tempo swing. And for red blue, for example, what do you want more than slow them down? Killing a Daisy is so strong.
Yeah, exactly. Daisy's a huge issue for them, and it's hard to imagine a better answer than playing one of these early.
Yeah. And yeah, and with Ice Block, the synergy with Ice Block is just feels so unfair sometimes. It's crazy what you can kill with the Ice Block. Ice Block Sisu is I don't know. It feels so unfair. That's why I also think Clarabelle is a way. I think you don't do it very often, but you still kill some Ice Block sometimes with a Clarabelle.
Oh yeah.
And it's very very good often. It's at least a bit at the upside. It's not completely useless, and it's not that you do it every game, but it's still a possibility to do that. And if your opponent has only one item and you kill the last item in the mid game, still very good to let them to prevent them from drawing. And yeah, so human Sisu, I totally agree. Yeah.
Yep.
I have one more card, and it's also not a card that is a tech card necessarily, because it's in some decks but I just want to mention the power of the card right now, and that's Zeus for me. Zeus is crazy good. I think I maybe I posted in my in the description, because I don't have it right now. I played a purple steel list too, with a little bit slower list with Tinkerbells and the shift line of Tinkerbells and something. I think that's also really good. And Zeus, I just experienced how crazy good Zeus is right now. It's so unfair to kill a genie with you when you're singing it with it's so crazy. And it's probably the best answer to the shark. There's no better answer to the shark than Zeus. It's crazy good. I don't know if there was a state of Lorcana where Zeus was in a better spot than now. Just Genie and Shark for me is such a crazy good reason to play Zeus that I would say it's a nearly auto 4 for me. In the auto 4 in maybe it's a Doc Acro piles not, but in every bit slower steel deck, Steel Song for example, it's a 4 for me. It's in some mid-range purple steel list, it's a 4 for me. It's such a good card. I really think if you're doubting about Zeus, don't do it. Just play it 4 times if you have a deck that plays it. And even in some other decks, I think it's a reasonable 1 or 2 of, even in Dog Piles or something. You can still sing it with your rabbits and genies. And also, it's your answer to the shark. It's your steel answer to the shark. I mean, you have not many answers in steel, so it's a very, very good card. Or do you say I'm stupid?
I'm actually, I've had a thought, and I'm looking at something right now while you're talking, because there's something I wanted to check. When you're talking about Zeus, there's a wider point about songs in general, right? As not actions but songs, which is that my inkling there was, you know what? One of my problems with Zeus in the past is when it just gets Ursula'd, right? Because Ursula was really prevalent. So I just went and had a look at the last 3 major tournaments in the US over the last couple of weekends. How many copies of Ursula of 2-drop Ursula do you think featured in the so 3 events, 3 top 8s, 24 decks? How many copies of 2-drop Ursula?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's 0, but maybe there was how many?
It's 4. There was 1 green purple in there was 1 green purple in 1 top 8. At some point you have to realize, you have to calibrate for the fact that, like, we've come out of multiple formats where green steel was a major player. And
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
saying green steel isn't or doesn't have potential. I think it can come back, but right now you look at what's going on. There's loads of purple steel, loads of amber steel. That combined with green purple, and in the past there were other decks as well, like green yellow. We have lived in a world where this Ursula has been like everywhere, right? And you've just had to be careful with your numbers of cards like Zeus, uninkable songs. Same goes for Mother Knows Best and things like that. And I've been getting away with holding it so much compared to in the past. Yeah, there's a big plus point here, which is that like across the board there are far fewer 2-cost Ursulas around than you might instinctively think. We've lived in a world, like you say, where things like that get sniped endlessly.
Yeah, yeah.
And like the environment in America right now looks like, I'm not saying go crazy and just make your deck full of songs and you'll never be Ursula.
Yeah.
It's softer, right? There aren't as many as you would think.
And Zeus is the perfect song if you don't
Yeah.
expect a lot of Ursulas, I think.
Exactly.
I mean, the strength of Shark is just for me the jumping point for me for Zeus to make it really, really, really crazy good. I mean, which better answer you can imagine? This is crazy. And still, I won some games. Singing with your rabbit Zeus onto a genie is so unfair. It's the 0-cost genie removal. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And then you think, why don't many players play this unfair card? And it's I mean, it's a steel deck, and if you want to play it with rabbit, it's purple steel, and then it's a purple steel deck. But purple steel is probably not too bad, and you can play it more mid-rangey with Tinkerbells and the 3-cost Tinkerbell too. I made a list. I didn't test it yet, and probably I will show it next week because I think it could have some legs in the meta right now. Because Tinkerbell is a good card, I think, against the stockpiles too. If you can shift it early, then they have not that much answers against the 3-cost Tinkerbell.
No.
And then you shift on turn 4, and then I think they are in a problem then. I mean, you have to be careful about some Rapunzel trades then, but other than that, I think they have a real problem then. And you have Zeus against the genies, and you have Pete's still, and such cards. I mean, yeah, you could have some legs, and I think I will test it the next weeks. Yeah.
Nice.
Good. Do you have something left?
No, the last one on my list was just kind of, again, it's like a class of cards where I just sort of said lore drain effects. So Pirate's Life, Lyle. There are a lot of decks right now.
7-cost Aladdin.
Yeah, 7, sure. Play 7-cost Aladdin. Go nuts. There are a lot of decks right now that are kind of, what's the best way to describe it? Like, they are perfectly getting over the line with their last card. These stockpiles are very good at it. You can disrupt them quite a lot by, they basically get to this point where they're on like 17, 18 lore, and then you have to answer what they play every single turn. And if you can just bring that down to 15, you can grind them out more easily with decks like green, purple, red, purple, blue, red.
If Lorcana would go to 23, the deck would be unplayable, That's exactly the effect.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. The nature of the game would change massively for them, and then a lot of them also, like some of these aggressive purple steel decks, they rely on high reach. They lose control of the board towards the sort of mid into late game, and then they hobble over with goat bounces and white rose and that sort of thing. If you can get yourself out of that threshold through a bit of lore draining, the decks really, really struggle to close. Not so much Go-Go. Go-Go can still do big, crazy things, but a lot of these purple decks and some of these amber steel decks, I imagine, would struggle with once the lore draining starts happening. It's not like Red Blue players have to be told to play Pirate's Life, like you say. Most people are doing that now, and it's fantastic at the role it plays. But in general, lots of people just about getting over the line with more aggressively slanted decks. and lore draining messes that up and is probably quite valuable right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, often for red blue, for example, one pirate's life is often enough to just win, because what can they do?
Yeah, it's got to be like the hardest gut punch card to me at the moment. When that happens, I really start to think like, oh, it's over. It's so not over, but like it feels like I've not even seen the shark yet, but the first one has just happened, and I've gone from like 12 to 10, and I'm like, right, I had a route here, I had a plan in mind where I was going to win, and now all of a sudden it doesn't work at all. Yeah, it's way more disruptive than it might look for a lot of these decks.
Yeah. Okay. So we are done with the tech cards. What do we else have to say? I think you should maybe we just say something to the players who will compete. Don't think too much. I think that's an advice that you will probably give too. It's not very useful to overthink your deck. You won't break the meta, probably. You won't break the meta by some weird tech choices or by some cards that you could play some cards that are not predicted by the meta, but if you choose to play it, then just play it and don't think too much. Put them in, think, okay, I will do this. But in my experience from big tournaments, it was always very helpful to don't think too much. It's kind of it feels like it's paradox, but it's not. You think too much. I mean, you should know right now what you will play, and that's very important, I think. And when you chose to, then stick to it and don't think too much. You will either get rewarded or not. That you don't know, of course, but that won't change by thinking too much. I think you have to. The more important thing is that you are well rested and in a good mood in the tournament, and you are just happy to play the game and think, okay, then we see how it's working out. And don't make a last day deck change. I think that's not what we recommend. Even if you think your deck is not in the best shape, maybe sometimes even if you think the deck isn't, maybe the meta is a bit different than you think, and then the people thought it the same. So, for example, I don't know, Purple Steel is not good because it's bad into Steel Song, and there will be so many Steel Songs, and somehow there will be some way more red purple or red blue because all think Steel Song is that popular, and then you just crush them all. So no one of us knows exactly the meta, and you can't figure it out, I think. And just be confident with your choice and stick with it. And I wish you really all the best of luck. We won't be there, of course, because we are from Europe, and I wish you all the best of luck. I will be excited to follow it, to see how it goes. And I really hope that how can I say, like you said before, that you said Kendall is a good contender for win. I really hope that the skill will work out, like that really some players will come on the top that are known for not meaning, I don't mean that they're popular or something, but who really show that they are very, very skillful, and that's the deciding point, hopefully, to win the Continentals, because I think they should just be rewarded. And I don't say it because I like Kendall or someone. I don't mean him exactly. I mean just the skill. You should see the skill being rewarded in the tournament. That's one thing I always want to see. And because I was from Yu-Gi-Oh! And I always thought there were some tournaments where I thought, oh my gosh, he lucked so much through the tournament, and that shouldn't be the case. I think it's not the case for Lorcana, but it's sometimes you can get a bit lucky, and I really hope the skill will be rewarded in this tournament. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I would just echo so much of what you've said. Especially, I'll repeat something I've said in the past. Obviously, both of us were very successful at the European Continentals, and I can attribute one specific decision to a massive amount of my success, which was I made the decision to stop testing when I was happy, when I felt like I understood all of my matchups. I felt like I had a few tech choices for my expected field. I felt really good. I felt confident. I'd played a good number of games, but not a crazy number. I stopped, and that was at least 5 days before the tournament. More testing is not better testing, and your mindset is so important. Anything you can do to help yourself feel better will probably benefit you more than drilling like 25 more games against red blue, which is likely to just have the effect of making you feel like you've got a dead matchup versus red blue and your deck is bad. Do what makes you confident. Obviously, I'm not saying don't test, but you've got to know when to stop. There's diminishing returns, and stopping when you're happy is so valuable. And outside of that, just do things in your life that enable you to go into the tournament with a clear head.
Yeah.
Like if you, like many Lorcana players, are like a married parent, for example, taking the weekend off to attend Continentals, just pick up some extra chores on a couple days before so that your partner feels super supported and you go off feeling like, you know what, it's cool that I'm off doing this and everything is taken care of. I'm not telling you how to live your life, but if there is anything that might distract you, like for example feeling like worrying about other responsibilities in life, taking care of things on that front and freeing your mind to just feel unburdened and able to focus on the game at a certain point becomes more valuable than testing games. So yeah, do what you need to do to be happy. And the other thing is just, I want so much for like the people that listen to this to just, I would love for as many of you as possible to feel like some of the feelings that I felt at our LCQ and Continentals. That feeling when I won my pod, and it's almost hard to remember because it's like a blur, but you kind of came up behind me and shouted and tapped me on the shoulder, and then I leapt up and we had a hug and our friends were there. It's like among the best moments of my life. There are something that it was so validating, and I would love as many people to share in that. And I truthfully believe that so many of you can achieve that. It's very much within reach and unbelievably validating and just a great feeling. And I really, would love it to see some of you succeed and share in that, because it is a great thing. Obviously, don't pin all of your hopes on winning, but like, I really hope some of you do, and I think you're more than capable of doing it.
Such a good way to say it. Oh my gosh. Nice. Yeah. With that said, with that emotional words being said, I think we are good to relieve you to the tournament, crush them all, bring honor to our green purple family, or even if you're playing something else, it's totally fine. We are not mad or something. If you don't play green steel, it's fine. Thanks for watching. We will hear us next week again after the Continentals. I think we have a lot to talk about. And I'm excited for the tournament. We wish you really all the best of luck, and hope you do well. And of course, not everyone can win, but we wish you all the best of luck and have a good one. And we see you next time and next week. And bye bye.
Bye bye.